Hi, welcome to Donsky Tech. In this lesson, I'm going to discuss about building a RESTful API using Node.js, Express, and MongoDB. But before we proceed, let us just step back a little bit why we need a REST API server in the first place. In this image, you would see that we have a REST server, a database, and several clients. Clients could be another program that could be running in your workstation or laptop, a microcontroller, or even a browser. If your microcontroller project needs to get something from a database, then would you allow it to connect directly to the database? Probably not a good idea. That is why we are building some sort of a middleman to be the one to talk to our database. And that is where our REST API server comes into the picture. In turn, the microcontroller or the other clients would talk to the middleman, which is our REST API server. In order to retrieve several resources from our database like records, then it is the job of the REST API server to retrieve all the information to our database and just send back the details to our calling client. Do you want to learn more? Then let's get started. Let's discuss what is REST. REST pertains to a representational state transfer. It is actually an architectural style of programming that uses the HTTP methods such as the GET, the POST, the PUT, or DELETE in retrieving resources. An API, on the other hand, will allow two programs to communicate with each other. So in our previous slide, we have a REST API server between a database and our microcontroller. In this case, the REST API that we are creating will be the one to talk to our database, and at the same time, it is the one that will communicate with the different clients that we have created. Since we are mostly pertaining with microcontroller, our clients right now is using microcontroller. So in order to build, what are the tools needed to create our REST API server? We have the following software called the Node.js, the Express, the MongoDB Atlas, and the language is JavaScript and JSON. The Node.js and the Express are popular frameworks in developing applications using JavaScript. MongoDB Atlas is a database as a server and is a popular cloud NoSQL database. We're using this in creating records for whatever resources that we want. In this particular video, we are using this in saving the key codes that are inputted from our keypad applications. These key codes are then being transferred from our microcontroller, and we are using the REST API server to validate if that is present or not in our database. So this is actually just the basic information regarding what is a REST API interaction. This video will not explain everything related to this one, but the accompanying write-up will tell you what are this information. But to summarize everything that is in here, the client that we have here is a microcontroller, and it sends a request into our Node.js REST server. The Node.js REST API server then parse or reads this HTTP request, and it goes several layers and it goes into several layers wherein it has routes, controllers, models, and until it reaches the MongoDB. When it reaches and retrieves the data in the MongoDB, then it returns back a response back to our microcontroller. So that is basically how the request and the response cycle is happening between the client and our Node.js REST server. The accompanying write-up, which I will put in the description below, will explain this further, and I have put there the step-by-step ways on how to create your own REST API server. And including in this post is how you're going to test our REST API server. In this case, we're using a tool called Postman that will allow us to test our created REST API server. So the next section will discuss how you can download and set up the REST API server that I have created. So we'll start by downloading and setting up our application. So to do that, just go to my GitHub page, which is in github.com/Node.js project. And you can either download the zip file of my project, or if you know Git, then you can just copy along with this URL and then just open a terminal and select a directory where you want to download the application. To do that, you just have to execute the git clone command and then click enter. Then it will copy the project into your folder. So let's check. So it's now in my directory right now in my local file system. And let's go into the project and then let's check that we have the keypads IoT REST application here. So let's go into that directory and let's just clear the screen a little bit. After which, we'll open this project in Visual Studio Code. So if you have installed Visual Studio Code already, then we just type in code and then type dot, which is the current directory. This will open up your Visual Studio Code. And in the File Explorer, you see the folders for this project. So the first thing that we need to do is to download the dependencies for this project. So to do that, let's just click the terminal and then click New Terminal. This will open up a terminal, PowerShell terminal in my case in here. So to download the dependencies, we just need to execute Node.js npm commands, which is npm install. Then just wait for the download to finish. So it might take some time and it will do some validation. Okay, now that the npm install is finished, if we take a look at our directory, we'll be seeing that it now has the node modules, which contains all of the dependencies that we have in our project. The next thing that you need to do is to open up your Visual Studio Code in here if it's not open. And you see that there is a .env.dev file in here. So you just need to replace these values from the MongoDB Atlas setup that you did earlier. So what you need are the username and the password for that user and the cluster name, which is in the form of this one. So this is just an example. And the name of your MongoDB. In my case, I just put it as keypadsdb. So just replace it with the setup that you have. Now that you have updated the .env, we'll just have to rename it and then remove the .dev so that it will be just .env. Okay, now that the .env is now renamed, the next thing that we will do is we'll start our application. So to start our application, just click npm and then click start. Then you would see that it's now listening in localhost 3000 and it says that we have successfully connected to our MongoDB Atlas. To verify that our REST API server is really running, open up a browser and then type in the localhost 3000 and then type in the API. and click enter. If you see this message being shown, then it means that our REST API server is running perfectly. Okay, now that we have set up our REST API server, then we'll do some testing regarding the endpoint that we have created. So to do the testing, we need a tool called Postman. So I'll put a link in the description where you can download the Postman. And when you open the Postman app, you can just go to the workspaces and then you can create your own workspaces here. In my case, I have created my Codes REST API application here. So these are the endpoints that we are going to test for our Node.js REST API server. So before we proceed, let's just visit our database just to check the data that we currently have. We have one collection called the key codes. So in the key codes, we have two key codes that we have created. One is the BT9876 and the AB1234. Okay, so the first thing that we can test out is the get all key codes. So in the get all key codes, what you can do is just put the options here as get, and then the API key codes is the API, the endpoint. Just put it here, and since we don't need to pass in anything in here, so there's no need to do any params or body option. And then let's just click send. So in the send request, you would be able to see that these are the list of key codes that we currently have in our database. So we have the BC9876 and the AB1234. That's for the getting all the key codes. For the specific key codes, the REST endpoint is similar to this one. We have a get option and we pass in the name of the key codes in here, and then we click the send. So in the send request, we now have this particular information. So I have the key code BC9876 and there's a description there, which is the updated ANA key code. Okay, and then the next thing that we can test is the update key code. So in the update key code, let's just say this is the description, which is the updated ANA key code. So if we check the key code in the database, it's this one. So in our case, let's just remove everything and then just put the ANA key code in here. And then let's click send. So it says that it is successfully updated record. And then let's check our database and then click the refresh. So it's updated ANA key code here. Let's click the refresh. So you see that it's now ANA key code. Okay. So if we go into the next section, which is the add key code. So in the add key code, let's test out a new key code called BC, not BC, let's say AC5432, and then let's say put this to Alfred key code, and then let's click send. So it says that we have successfully added the key code. So this is a post request and this is the API endpoint. We just put the body and the type to be JSON. So if we check our database right now and then click refresh, then we should be able to see that we now have the Alfred key code entry in our database. So the next thing that we will just test, the last endpoint that we're going to test is the delete. So we just copy the key code here and then we go to the delete. So the HTTP method will be a delete, and then this is the endpoint. And in the body section, which is a JSON, we just pass in the key code, which is the AC, and we just said that we're going to delete the Alfred key code in here, but it is actually not being used. So the only thing in our code is it's looking for the key code, and then let's click send. And it says that it has successfully deleted our key code record. If we check our database right now, it still has the Alfred key code, but if we click refresh, then it is now deleted. So That's all for the API testing of our application.
Hi! If you like the videos that I have created, then please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and other social media channels. Hit the notification button so that you will get notified for new contents. Please do comment, like, and share. Happy exploring!